It's the International Soccer Preview. We are Soccerphiles Canada. Welcome to Series 31, looking at the players of the 2025 African Cup. This episode is looking at the players of Nigeria. Part 1, the candidates. Here we go. Hello and welcome to the International Soccer Preview by Soccerphiles Canada. I'm Kevin and this is Series 31 on the players of the 2025 African Cup. This episode covers Nigeria's players. Just a note on where we're at in our mediacasts. We're publishing previews of the groups and teams of the 2025 African Cup at the same time as this series on the players. Last summer, we previewed the groups, teams, and players for the 2025 CONCACAF Gold Cup, and we also did a mediacast introducing ourselves. After this African Cup, we will tackle the massive 48-team World Cup in the summer of 2026. So we plan to start publishing those episodes in the springtime of 2026. We're doing this mediacast on the players in two parts. Part 1 here is a look at the candidates for the squad and their likelihood of making it. We examine the participation of players in games over the recent period and a couple of other factors as well, and categorize players into definite, likely, possible but unlikely, and seemingly off the squad. And that is for their chances of making the final squad there. We'll go into more detail on the players we think likely to reach the final squad, and less, perhaps even just the names of players less likely to get there. Part 2 will come out when the squad lists are released and the final squad selected, probably in early to mid-December there. At that time, we will go back over the list we create here and see who made it and who didn't. And we'll also cover things like injuries and surprise selections. So this episode has 3 sections. Section 1, we look at some general information on the team. Section 2, we cover the main candidates in each position. And Section 3, we summarize and conclude, especially focusing on injuries to keep an eye on. And Nigeria has a few of those. Let's begin then. We begin with some information about the squad here. And we have actually done some of the big names who are off the squad in this section, but we're going to change things up a bit here. We'll cover them as we go through Section 2, and then we'll review that in Section 3. So let's move on to our second order of business, club affiliations. I'll just give you a broad idea of the level of clubs that Nigerian players play for. Basically, players need to move out of Nigeria to make the national team. Generally, if a few young players are with Nigerian clubs making their start. And as we go through this, I'm going to give you a couple of examples, 2 examples from each category. So with the domestic clubs, we reckon that's about 5% of the players. That's a fairly rough estimate there. Just give me a second here. And the example teams are Remo Stars, who I think won the league last year, and Plateau United. Those are actual teams that some of the players play for. Next, we have bigger leagues like those in South Africa or Egypt, and a couple of players with Asian clubs in Saudi Arabia. So we have Africa and Asia. Actually, an interesting example there is Erbil in Iraq. One of the players plays there, but the examples I have here are Chippa United in South Africa and Al Ittihad in Egypt. That makes up about 5%. Then we have about 5% outside of Europe. Oops, I jumped ahead of myself there. That second category should just be kind of African clubs. Outside of Europe, about 5% of the players there, and our examples are Erbil in Iraq, and New England Revolution in USA, one of the players with them. Next, we have small to mid-sized clubs in Europe, and examples are Dender in Belgium and Volos in Greece, maybe clubs you haven't heard of before. Um, Players do tend to favour England there. In fact, some of the players are born in England, and we have quite a few players there. We're going to put that at 30%. I don't know if I mentioned small to mid-sized club in Europe, 20%, but 30% in England, for example, Fulham and Crystal Palace. And then we have kind of top clubs in Europe representing about 30%. So we have Besiktas and Galatasaray in Turkey, and then two players playing for Seville, or Sevilla, I should say, in Spain. So there we go. It's about 5% domestic, 5% in Africa, 5% clubs outside of Europe, then 20% for small to mid-sized clubs in Europe, 30% in England, and 30% for top clubs in Europe. So pretty high level there compared to most African countries, the Nigerian players. All right, let's move on to recent games and the build-up for the Cup. Ooh, I think I put that information in the wrong place in my graphic, so let me just move it there. Recent games. So we're examining the position of players from after the 2023 African Cup, which was played in January of 2024, and that's how we're deciding the likelihood of players reaching the squad. But we are going to actually start our narratives with the African Cup there in 2024, January of 2024, but we won't include those games in the count. But they did play 7 games in the African Cup. They reached the final there, but our count actually begins after that with 2 friendlies in March of 2024 there. And actually, we have a manager change after that. And then they played 2 World Cup qualifying games in June of 2024. And we have another manager change after that. On we go to the 2025 African Cup qualifying. So all 6 qualifying games there. Actually, just 5 games for Nigeria there, because one of their games against Libya was awarded, so we don't get to see any kind of a lineup there. 5 games in September to November 2024. We will go over the manager situation, but I'll tell you that the manager was changed there, so we got a new manager. And I'm going to change the one in March, because I believe that was a permanent manager, although he only lasted 2 games. Moving into 2025, we have 2 World Cup qualifiers in March of 2025. And then we have 3 friendlies in May and June of 2025. So most teams, if they play friendlies, play 2 of them, but Nigeria played 3 friendlies in that period. And then we move on to the fall of 2025, where we have 4 World Cup qualifying games. So that brings our total to 19 games. And that is what we're looking at over the period. Our next section is on formations. What were their formations in games over that period? Well, we're not going to go through it in detail. Actually, they used a bunch of different formations. The one they used the most was a 4-2-3-1 formation, and they used that in 5 of their 18 games. So there's the total. I've been struggling a bit with that. 4-2-3-1, only in 5 of the 18 games. So the formation they used the most was just used 28% of the time. And I should tell you that they used 6 different formations over the period. And Sorry, I have to deal with a computer matter there. 6 different formations over the period, and um, I'll just kind of summarize the highlights of that. Over those 6 formations, we have a 2-man central defense in 72% of the matches, and then a 3-man central defense in 28% of the matches. So about 3/4 with a 2-man central defense and 1/4 with a 3-man central defense. On the forward line, we have a single forward 83% of games, so most of the time, and then 17% of the time it is a 2-man forward line there. So that is what we're looking at, and let's take a look at Nigeria's upcoming games. Well, we're doing this towards the end of November, so they did play a couple of games in November, and they were not friendly games, they were World Cup playoff games. So the first one there against Gabon, and the second one against Congo DR, and they beat Gabon in extra time and lost to Congo DR there on penalties. We're not so much interested in the result, but the lineups. But we are going to save that for part 2 of the mediacast, because we kind of prepared up until the end of the October games here. So in part 2 of the mediacast, we will look at the lineups of those games, and that'll maybe help us to predict who we're going to see as starters in the Cup. Okay, let's move on to our main section here, where we look at the candidates and their likelihood of making it. We're also going to include a bit of a narrative of each position over the period, over the 2-year period that we're looking at. So let's begin by just naming candidates, and then we will give a narrative, and then give information, more detailed information on the main candidates. So we have the manager, the current manager, Eric Chali. And Eric Chali is coming in. Well, we'll tell you in the narrative when he came in. It was really January 2025 there. The other managers in the narrative are Augustine Eguavoen and Jose Pizarro and George Finidi. So several people in the managerial role over the period. Let's take a look at the story then. Jose Pizarro had come in just after Nigeria fell short of World Cup 2022 qualifying. So that was in the springtime of March 2022. Sorry, the spring. Anyway, I think I made it clear there. It was in the springtime of 2022. He replaced caretaker manager Augustine Eguavoen, who is an ex-player. Anyway, Pizarro came in and led them through a second-place finish in the 2023 African Cup, but he was released shortly after in March of 2023, and he was replaced by Finidi George, another ex-player. Finidi George led them only through 2 games, though. That was their June 2024 World Cup qualifiers, and there was a 1-1 draw in South Africa and a 1-2 loss to Benin, and that game was played in Ivory Coast. It was a home game for Benin, but they played in Ivory Coast. And so those were terrible results, and Finidi George was quickly replaced by Augustine Eguavoen. Eguavoen now in his 5th stint as manager of Nigeria. And Eguavoen led them through the fall 2024 qualification games for this cup. But he was actually only a caretaker manager, and in January of 2025, Eric Chali was hired with a contract, and I'll tell you that contract is expected to go until January 2027. We'll have to see if this World Cup failure to reach this World Cup endangers his position. We don't have any such word on that yet. Chile, though, coming in January 2025, led them through the first. Led them through World Cup 2026 qualifying, all but the first two games. The first two games had been played. And they had a poor run under Chile there, eventually knocked out in November of 2025, just a little while ago. That was very recent, but for the time being, he has not been fired over it. So that's the narrative. Let's take a look at the manager that we expect to lead them through the cup, although I kind of sense his position might be in a bit of danger because that's the second cup in a row they have not qualified, second World Cup in a row. Anyway, Eric Chelle is from Mali. He played for the Mali team, the international team, from 2004 to 2006, but only earned 5 caps, so not a major player for them. So he was a player. As a manager, he managed the Mali national team through the 2023 African Cup. He had before managed a few teams in France, smaller teams there. And after leaving Mali in 2024, I mean, leaving his position as head coach of the Mali national team, he coached a team in Algeria, MC Oran, until he got his job for the Nigeria national team there in January of 2025. So Eric Chelle, the current manager, I guess we'll let you know in part 2 if he was let go because of them failing to reach the African Cup. Having said that, Augustine Egwebowen was the manager when they failed to qualify for the previous cup. So that's 2 in a row, and he was let go afterwards. That's why I'm a bit nervous for Chelle's position. Anyway, that's the managerial situation, and let's move on to goalkeepers here and begin by naming the candidates. So at the definite level, we have Stanley Nwabali, Nwabali, and then at the likely level we have Amos Obasogie, and then 2 candidates at the possible level. The first is Maduka Okoye, and the second one is Adebayo Adelaide. Possible but unlikely candidates, we have 2, Coyote Bankole and Adamu Mohamed Abubakar. And then seemingly off the squad, we have Francis Uzuho and Ojo Oloranleke. Okay, that's the list of candidates. Let's go to a summary of the story. Actually, going into the previous African Cup, we had predicted Francis Uzuho as a starter. However, we were taken by surprise. It was newcomer Stanley Nwabali who started all the games there. He continued as the starter over this period, in fact, starting 16 of the 18 games. When he was out for those 2 games, it was Maduka Okoye replacing him in the 2 games he missed. And he seemed the main backup until he was not called up for the games in the fall of 2025. So the recent games in September and October. Obasogie and Adelaide were the players on the bench there. So currently the backup position is uncertain. Perhaps we'll have more clarity when we do part 2 and are able to look at a few more games, because we're hoping they'll have a couple of friendlies in December that we can look at as well. Anyway, let's now take a closer look at the candidates. So Stanley Nwabali, a definite candidate. He's been with Nigeria since 2021 with 27 caps and 0 goals, and he is 29 years old. So I called him a newcomer coming into the African Cup in 2023, but he actually had been in and around since 2021. But as I said, he was a starter in the African Cup and started 16 of their 19 games over the period. I'm going to be saying 19 games because one of those games was that cancelled game with Libya, and we couldn't avoid including that in our count. So they actually played 18 games, but our count says 19 games. Okay, the likely candidate, Amas Obatog, and should have said Stanley Nwabali's club there. He plays for Chippa United in South Africa and played for teams in Nigeria before that. Okay, now I can go on to the likely candidate. It's Amos Obasogi, and he has no caps for the national team here. He's 26 years old, and he also plays for a broader African club. He plays for Singida Black Stars in Tanzania. Just moved there since 2025. He played for a team in Ethiopia prior to that, and then in Nigeria. So Amat Obatogi was selected for the preliminary squad for the 2023 African Cup, but didn't make the final cut, and in fact was off the team after that for a while. He returned after a 10-month absence in September 2024 and didn't start any of the games, but was on the bench for 12 and not selected for 3 others. So he seemed like the third string keeper, Amas Obatogi. But now maybe the second string keeper. Anyway, he is a likely candidate to make the squad. We look at the first of our possible candidates, Maduka Okoye. He's been with Nigeria since 2019 with 18 caps for the team and is 26 years old. And he plays for Udinese in Italy since 2023 and has a pretty impressive resume. We won't go into too much detail because he's just at the possible level here. But Maduka Okoye was born in Germany and was a starter in the 2021 African Cup, but not selected for the 2023 edition. He returned after an 8-month absence in June of 2024, and he, as we saw, was the starter when Nwabali was out for 2 of the games. And he was on the bench for 7, but not selected for 7 matches, including the last 4. So Okoye may be on the ropes for this cup. The other possible candidate is Adebayo Adele. He's been with Nigeria since 2023 with 1 cap and is 26 years old. 25 years old. He plays for Volos in Greece and was on the preliminary squad for the last African Cup, but not selected. He returned after an almost 2-year absence in September of 2025, so came in right at the end and was on the bench for all 4 matches there. So making a bid as the third string keeper, it seems, Adebayo Adele. 2 of the players are possible but unlikely. We won't go into too much detail. The first one is Kayode Bankole, and he got 2 appearances on the bench in March of 2025, but that was it. And the other one, Adumu Mohammed Abubakar, also got an appearance on the bench in May of 2025, but wasn't called up after that. The seemingly off the squad candidates, we're not going to go into into any detail actually, other than naming them. And Ojo Olorunleke, well, that's a tough one. Now I got it. Ojo Olorunleke last appeared on the bench in March of 2024. And the other seemingly off the squad is Francis Azuho. So, yes, a big name for the club in recent years. He was a starter in the 2018 World Cup and a backup keeper for the 3 African Cups after in 2019, 2021 and 2023. As we said, we did expect him to be the starter going into the last cup, but he was not. And after March of 2024, so shortly after the cup, he made his last appearance on the bench for the national team. He's 27 years old, though, so definitely young enough to make a comeback. But for this period, he seems to be off the team. Okay, so in part two, we'll talk about who we think is going to be the starter, but I think it's a pretty easy call given the information we've given you there. And we're going to move on to defenders then and begin with central defenders. Begin by nominating the candidates here. So we have Calvin Bassey at the definite level. And also William Troost-Ekong at the definite level, too. At the likely level, Semi Ajayi and Benjamin Frederick. At the possible level, we have Igo Ogbu and Chidozie Awaziam. And at the possible but unlikely, Gabriel Oshu and Jordan Toraniga. Torunarigha is the name, Torunarigha. And then we have actually a couple of players who are coded as central defenders who we have moved to the right back position, and we'll talk about them when we get there. But we have two players seemingly off the squad, Olisa Nda and Kenneth Omaru. So we're dealing with a lot of players here, and part of the reason is that we're filling not just two positions, but possibly three. I'll remind you from part one that it was a two-man position in about 3/4 of the games and a three-man position in about a quarter of the games, or 28% to be exact. So I'll just add here that when it is a three-man defence, it's always the left backs and right backs who push up to become wingers for Nigeria over this period. So we don't have to kind of separate when the left backs and right backs become wingers. However, central defence, 2 to 3 players here, and let's tell you the story over the recent period. So we were confident that Semi Ajayi would be a starter in the previous cup, and we thought that Calvin Bassey would be his partner. In fact, it was Semi Ajayi, but it was William Troost-Ekong as the partner in the first game. But from game 2, it was a three-man defence, so it was all three of them, Ajayi, Ekong, Troost-Ekong, and Calvin Bassey there. Bassey remained as a starter through most of the period from after the Cup until now. He missed a few games and played left-back in one game. Ajayi continued as a starter also, but only until November 2024 when he got a hamstring injury. Following that, he didn't see much action as a starter. He started 2 of the 3 games in May and June of 2025, and also the last game in October of 2025, but didn't fully recover his starting position, I would say. Troost-Ekong joined them in a 3-man defence at first, and then when Ajayi was injured, he kind of took over the position. But several players came in when any of those players were absent. And keep in mind that it is a 3-man defence, so we have a need for more players. So quite a few players did come in and kind of came in order. First, Chidozie Awaziam came in for 2 games in March 2024, and then Gabriel Osho for 2 games in the fall of 2024. In May, June 2025, it was Igo Ogbu, and finally in the fall of 2025, it was Benjamin Frederick, each of those playing 2 games or having 2 starts. Benjamin Frederick did also start as a right back, but we'll kind of cover in the biographies how much they actually played. Anyway, going into the Cup, I think Bassey Trusticong and Ajay are still the main candidates here. Let's take a look at them. Calvin Bassey, then, a definite candidate. Been with Nigeria since 2022, and he has 36 caps and 1 goal. He's 29 years old, no, sorry, 26 years old, born in Italy and plays for Fulham in England. Right now, he was with Ajax in the Netherlands and Rangers in Scotland before that. Calvin's first tournament was the 2023 African Cup. We saw he was subbed into game one and then a starter after that. Over the recent period, Bassey has started 13 of their 19 games, subbed in for one and on the bench for one, and not selected for 4 others. So Calvin Bassey, a definite candidate. William Troost-Ekong is captain of the team, actually, and he's been with Nigeria since 2015. He has 83 caps and 8 goals and is now 32 years old. And he is playing in Saudi Arabia, a team called Al Khulud. But he has played for some big clubs. He's played for probably Udinese in Italy, the biggest club there, and he was with Tottenham's youth club. Troost-Ekong was actually born in the Netherlands and has been part of the national team since the 2018 World Cup. He was a starter in all tournaments before there. From then on in that tournament and in the 3 African Cups afterwards, was captain of the team since the 2021 African Cup. Troost-Ekong started 10 of their 19 games over this period, and we won't go into more detail than that. He was injured for the first 2 of those games, Troost-Ekong. And that's that. Semi Ajayi, only a likely candidate here because after his injury, he didn't really fully make it back into a starting position. We'll come to that at the end of his bio here. Semi Ajayi was with Nigeria since 2018. He has 46 caps and 1 goal. And is 32 years old, just like Troost-Ekong. He plays for Hull in England right now. That's a recent move. He was born in England, so all of his clubs have been in England. And we always point out that he was with Cardiff in the English League in 2015, just on loan, actually, from Arsenal to them. But we love Cardiff because that's where I grew up until I was 10 years old. So we always mention it. But anyway, Hull in England, that was a move from West Bromwich Albion in England, where he was for 6 years before that. And sorry, I see he's actually had 2 stints with Cardiff in the English League there. So, Semi Ajayi, in terms of tournaments, he was on the preliminary squad for the 2019 African Cup, didn't make the cut there. And in 2021, he was a substitute. But he did start game 3, a B team game. That was the only action he saw. However, as we saw, he was a starter in the recent African Cup in January 2024, started and finished all 7 games there, and over the period started 9 of their 19 games. He was injured for 4 games there. He only did miss 3 games, but he was on the bench or as a substitute for 3 games as well. That he started the last game in October makes us think he may be reclaiming his starting position, but we're going to consider that in part 2. The other possible candidate here is Benjamin Frederick. He only actually started 2 games as a centre back, as a central defender towards the end. He played 3 as a right back, and we'll talk about that when we get to the position. Benjamin Frederick is new to Nigeria since 2025, but has earned 5 caps. He's only 20 years old and plays for Brentford in England since 2024. At least he is on their roster because he's been loaned out to a small team in Belgium, Dender, there. but on the roster for Brentford. So Benjamin Frederick got his first cap in May of 2025 and started 5 of their remaining 6 games and was on the bench for the other. So looks like he is making inroads quickly there, Benjamin Frederick. However, he has an injury tag on him, out with an unknown injury since mid-November and an unknown return date. So this may be damaging to his chances here. He did actually finish all 120 minutes of the playoff final in November here against Congo DR, and then returned to his club injured. So we're not exactly sure what happened. Doesn't seem like he was injured in the game. But as we said, an unknown return date for him. So we'll have to update that in part 2. The first of our 2 possible candidates, Igo Ogbu, also new to Nigeria since 2025. He has 3 caps and is 25 years old, and he plays for Slavia Prague in Czech Republic since 2023 and got his first appearance on the bench in March of 2025. Started 2 games there and subbed in for 1. However, he too has an injury concern. He's out with a recurring hamstring injury since mid-September of 2025. However, he did return for a bench appearance for his club just recently in mid-November here. So it may be that he has recovered from that injury. And of course, we can update that in part 2. But that's where it stands for now. Igo Ogbu, then a possible candidate. The other possible candidate is Chidozie Awazia. He's been with Nigeria since 2017 with 35 caps and 1 goal, and is 28 years old and currently plays for Nantes in France since 2025. He was with a couple of teams in the USA before that. He has a lot of tournament experience ever since the 2018 World Cup, but he's only really ever been a bench player, and over the recent period has not started any games. He was on the bench for 2 and then not selected for the last 2 matches. So Chidozie Awazia, just a possible candidate here. We have 2 possible but unlikely candidates. The first is English-born Gabriel Osho, and he has 2 caps for Nigeria since 2024 and is 27 years old. And I've seen him play because he plays for Cardiff in the English League since 2025 and was with Auxerre in France before that. However, he only got 2 appearances there in November of 2024. Both of them were starts, and then was not selected after that. So Gabriel Osho, possible but unlikely. And I shouldn't be giving biographical information on these players unless they're selected for the final squad. But so I'll quickly cover Jordan Torunariga. He plays for Hamburg in Germany, which is a good club affiliation, but he was not selected for the last 7 matches there and didn't start any games, just on the bench there. So also possible but unlikely, Jordan Torunariga. And then we have 2 players seemingly off the squad. The first one is Olisa Nda, and he was on the bench for the 2021 African Cup and has been around since, but last appeared in September of 2024. The other one is a veteran, Kenneth Omaro, so I will give a little more detail on him. He's 32 years old now. Been with Nigeria since 2013 and has 69 caps and 1 goal. Still playing club soccer. He's with CFR Cluj, a pretty big club in Romania since 2025, and has played for clubs all over Europe. His first African Cup, Kenneth Umaru, is the 2013 edition, and he's been part of every cup since then. So 2 World Cups included in that. He was a starter in the 2014 World Cup. Oh, I see he wasn't part of the African Cup squad in 2017. Maybe he was off the squad for a little while there. Uh, so there we go. Kenneth Omero seemingly off the squad. And that is our look at the central defence, dealing with a lot of players there, as I said, because they're filling 2 to 3 positions. So not so many players in the categories going forward. Let's go on to the next category. It's left backs. And we'll begin by naming the candidates. The first one we have is at the definite level. It's Bruno Onyemaechi. And no one at the likely level there, but 2 candidates at the possible level, Zaidou Sanusi and Felix Agu. And then we have seemingly off the squad, Jamilu Collins. So let's look at the left back position over the period, beginning with the African Cup. Going into it in our media cast last time around, we were not sure who would be the starter. They didn't seem to find someone that they were comfortable with. So we're experimenting with several players before the Cup, and we weren't sure who would be the starter. It ended up being Zaidou Sanusi, although right back Ola Aina replaced him in 2 of the 7 games of the Cup. After the Cup, Zaidou was injured, and even though he had recovered by the fall of 2024, he was not called up again until October 2025. So, again, they don't seem comfortable with him in that position. But he did come back in October of 2025 and started the last game. Over the period, his main replacement was Bruno Onyemaechi, although he only started about half of the games. Especially towards the end, other players, out of position players were coming in. Right back, Bright Osei Samuel played the June 2024 games, and Ola Aina played the March 2025 games. We also had several players with single starts in the position, including the centre back Calvin Bassey playing over there one time. So that's the story. Let's look at the candidates. Bruno Onyemaechi, as I said, only started half of the games, but was called up for most of the games. He was subbed in for 4 and on the bench for 2, and not selected for only 3 of the 19 games over the period. But I'm getting ahead of myself there because I haven't introduced him yet, so let's go back and do that. Onyemaechi is with Nigeria since 2023 with 20 caps and no goals. He is 26 years old, plays for Olympiacos in Greece. Since 2025, having played for Portuguese clubs before that. Boa Vista, the main club he played for. He was on the roster for the 2023 African Cup there, but saw no action. Actually wasn't even on the bench for 4 of the 7 games in that tournament. So, but as I said, has started half the games over the period. So Bruno Onyemaechi, at least a definite candidate to make the squad, but that's not to say that he would be the starter. Zaidou Sanusi is the first of 2 possible candidates. Sanusi has been with Nigeria since 2020. He has 26 caps and no goals, and is 28 years old, and plays for Porto in Portugal since 2020, but also sometimes for the Porto B team in 2024. He was on the B team there. All of his clubs have been in Portugal, Zaidou Sanusi, and he was a starter in the 2021 African Cup, and as we saw, also a starter in the 2023 Cup. Zaidou Sanusi. But we also saw that they don't seem fully satisfied with him, so he doesn't have a firm grip on the position. In fact, over the recent period, he returned. He was gone for 20 months, so almost 2 years. That started with being injured in the first two matches, but as we saw, he wasn't recalled until October of 2025, and then he did start their last game. So Zaidou Sanusi looks like he's back in the team, but we have him at the possible level here. Also at the possible level, Felix Agu. Felix Agu is new to the Nigerian team since 2025. He got one start there, so he has one cap. And he was born in Germany and plays for Werder Bremen in Germany since 2020. He got his first appearance on the bench in May of 2025, Felix Agu. And as we saw, started one game. He was also on the bench for three, but injured for the last two. So he is out with an ankle injury since mid-October and an unknown return date, which is unfortunate, but we'll have to update that in part two. So Felix Agu, a possible candidate, but an injury concern. Actually, also an injury concern is Jamilu Collins, but we won't give information on that because he seems to be off the team. So all we'll say about him is that he last appeared in March of 2024. But if he makes the final squad, we'll come back and give some information. However, I can't help but say that he played for Cardiff in the English League from 2022 to 2025. Just had to slide that in there. But that is a lot of defenders who have had association with my childhood club there. Okay, that's it for left backs, and let's go over to right backs and see who we have. So no one at the definite level, but at the likely level, we have Ola Aina. And we also have Chidozie Awaziam. Some sources code him as a centre back, some as a right back. We moved him to centre back because his only two games in this period were a centre back, so we won't put him on the list here. We have him on the central defender list. The next candidate here then is at the possible level. It's Bright Osei Samuel. And I would say possible, too likely for him. I'll tell you why later. We have a possible but unlikely candidate in Sodiq Ismaila. And then a player seemingly off the squad, Benjamin Panimu. Now, those are the four candidates we're looking at here. Let's go over the story for this position. So going into the previous cup, we expected Ola Aina to be the starter, and so he was. So we were right in that prediction, thank goodness. And however, we did see that two times he played on the left as a left back. So in those games, Bright Osei Samuel started on the right. When it came to March 2024, Ola Aina was injured and was in and out actually over the period. He only ended up starting 6 of their 18 games as starting right back. And once again, he started a couple of games on the left side, Ola Aina. But Osei Samuel then took over the position. But actually, he too was injured for the September 2024 game. So overall, those two basically alternated in the position. But we did have other players coming in, especially when both were injured. In March 2024, Benjamin Tanimu played both games and then was quickly off the squad. In May-June 2025 friendlies, Sodiq Ismaila, who's actually coded as a central defender, as is Benjamin Tanimu. So both of them getting 2 starts over the period. And in October of 2025, Aina was injured. and Osei Samuel not selected. So actually, central defender Benjamin Frederick started the last two games. We met him as a central defender, and Frederick started three games overall. So it looks like if Aina and Osei Samuel are unavailable, then it's a central defender uh, coming in to replace them. Okay, let's take a look at the candidates in more detail then. So, likely candidate Ola Aina has been with Nigeria since 2017 with 48 caps and no goals, and he is 29 years old. He was born in England and has played for English clubs his whole career, currently with Nottingham Forest since 2023. Sorry, I was wrong. He was with Torino for 4 years before that, but otherwise with English clubs. And Ola Aina has been part of tournaments since the 2019 African Cup, where he was a starter, and in the following two African Cups since then. Over the period, though, he's only started 8 of their 19 games. He was out with two separate injuries. Um, that was the first game and then the last two games. But there were also 8 games where he was not called up. So Ola Aina just a likely candidate here. By the way, he is on the injury list here, a hamstring injury from mid-September, and his return is expected on January 1st. So that is going to be a close call. Again, even if he returns, then he probably won't have fitness. The tournament begins on December 21st. I believe Nigeria plays their first game around Christmas Day, so maybe he'll be put on the squad in hopes of recovering. We'll have to see, and we might have a better idea when we get to part 2 of this media cast. Okay, let's move on though to our possible candidate, Bright Osei Samuel. He's been with Nigeria since 2022 with 26 caps and no goals, and is 28 years old. He also plays in England for Birmingham since 2025. He was with Fenerbahce for 4 years before that, Fenerbahce in Turkey. Otherwise has been with English clubs, even his youth club there. His first tournament, Osei Samuel, was the 2023 African Cup. We saw that he started 2 games there, also subbed into 3 games. Over the recent period, Osei Samuel started 8 of their 19 games, but he was not selected for 5 of the matches. But the reason we bumped him down from likely to possible is because he was not selected for the last 2 matches. And because Ola Aina was injured for those, it's a bit of a surprise that he wasn't selected. So we're not sure if something is going on there. Otherwise, we would have him as a likely candidate. Perhaps we can give more information in part 2, see if he returns to the team. That's Bright Osei Samuel, a possible candidate. Possible but unlikely is Sodiq Ismaila. He is coded as a centre back, but his 2 starts during this period were as a right back. However, he was not selected for the last 4 matches, so we have him as a possible but unlikely candidate. Also, Benjamin Tanimu is coded as a centre back. 2 of his 3 starts were as right back, so we move him here because he kind of fits the narrative better. We won't talk about him much. He basically came into the squad at the beginning of the period in March of 2024. He started as a centre back in March. And then started as a right back in the 2 games in June, and then was off the squad. So he hasn't appeared. He hasn't appeared for the last 12 matches. So Benjamin Tanimu kind of very quickly in and out at the beginning of the period, and that is our look at right backs. So let's move on to midfield then. And well, before we start looking at the players, let's talk a bit about the position itself. It actually, we didn't get into the complexities in it. Part one, they used 6 different formations, and mainly the differences were in the midfield. But actually, it turns out that it's not as complicated as it seems. Basically, there's either 2 or 3 midfielders in the game, and not a huge variety of players playing them. So I think we can simplify this without introducing too many of the complexities. So let's begin by naming the candidates. We're going to do defensive and central midfielders at the same time. Here, there's a lot of overlap between them. Players coded as defensive midfielders. We have a definite candidate in Wilfred Ndidi. He's actually I think his real first name is Onyini Ndidi, but he seems to go by Wilfred Ndidi. Definite candidate. And then just one other player here, a possible candidate in Rafael Onyedika. And yes, we can go on to the central midfielders as well. So we have a candidate at the likely level here, Frank Onyeka. There. And also Al Hassan Yusuf at the possible level. Al Hassan Yusuf. And at the possible but unlikely, Joe Aribo and Daniel Papa. And that's a surprisingly few number of midfielders. We do also have attacking midfielder Alex Iwobi coming back in about half of his starts here. But we're going to save him for the attacking end of the field since he played attacker just as much. So let's talk about the position then. In the Cup, we could only be certain that attacking midfielder Alex Iwobi would start as a central midfielder. He did almost exclusively in the build-up to the previous Cup. But we weren't sure he would start or who he would start with. Various other candidates were available, and sometimes it was 2 in a 3-man midfield. As it turned out, Iwobi did start 6 of the 7 games in the African Cup there in January 2024, but Frank Onyeka started all 7 of the games, so even more than Iwobi there. Wilfred Ndidi was injured for the Cup, but he became the main player in the position afterwards. He started with various partners, including Iwobi and Onyeka. But as we've said, Iwobi went back to a more attacking position, or kind of coming back and forth, but over the period, more of an attacking position. Onyeka started only 5 of the 18 games, and otherwise was subbing in or on the bench, but he was called up most of the time, as we'll see when we get to his bio. Otherwise, it was a variety of other players who got a few starts. Onyeka was the most with 5, and next was Rafael Onyedika, but only 4. So a lot of players kind of, coming in and out there alongside Ndidi for the most part. So let's look at the players, and we'll go back to defensive midfielders. Beginning with Wilfred Ndidi. So he has been with the team since 2015. He has 72 caps and no goals, and is 29 years old. He's currently now with Besiktas in Turkey since 2025. He was with Leicester in England for a long time before that. Ndidi's first tournament was the World Cup in 2018, and was a starter in that and in the following 2 African Cups. But for the 2023 African Cup, he was out with an injury. He was selected for the final squad. Maybe they were hoping he would recover in time, but he was selected and then replaced. Anyway, he was back in shape at the start of the period and started 16 of their 19 games. So just 2 matches he wasn't selected for. And So it's always someone basically playing alongside of him, regardless of the formation. The other candidate for defensive midfielder is Rafael Onyedika, and he is with Nigeria since 2022 with 17 caps and 1 goal, and he's 24 years old and playing for Club Bruges in Belgium since 2022. He was selected for the African Cup in 2023, but only appeared in one game there in game 3. And over the period, he started, as we said, 4 of the 19 games. However, he was subbed in for 8 and on the bench for 2, as well as injured for 2, which we'll talk about right away because it was the last 2 games. Just 3 games that he wasn't selected for. So maybe we could have him at the likely level. We have him at the possible level because he was only fielded in 1 of the last 7 games. I think that's why we put him down to possible level. He does have a injury tag on him, as we saw the last 2 games in October he was injured for. It turned out to be a short-term hamstring injury because it says he is, no, he did return to play on November 1st, so that is not a concern. So possible candidate Rafael Onyedika. And on to central midfielders, beginning with likely candidate Frank Onyeka. And he's been with Nigeria since 2020 with 36 caps and 3 goals. And he's 28 years old, plays for Brentford in England since 2021. Was loaned out to a couple of clubs there, or just to one club actually, Augsburg in Germany last year. And yes, that's his club history. In terms of tournament history, he was selected for the 2021 African Cup. Just appeared in a B team game there in 1 game. So it did kind of come as a surprise to us when he started all 7 games in the 2023 African Cup. There. However, he didn't continue to start as much as all that. He started only 5 of their 19 games over this period. He was also subbed in for 5 and on the bench for 5. So generally called up, but not necessarily a starter, Frank Onyeka. But we're talking about the possibility of making the final squad here, and we put him as likely as far as that goes. Next, we have possible candidate Al Hassan Yusuf, and he has been with Nigeria since 2024 with 9 caps and no goals, and is 25 years old. And he plays in the USA for New England Revolution, one of the bigger clubs in the USA. And he was a starter in the 2023 African Cup. He started game 1, but then subbed out injured and lost his starting position. But he did reappear as a substitute in the last 3 games there. Over the period, though, Yusuf has only started 2 of their 19 games. He subbed in for 2, but he was on the bench for 9 games and not selected for 6. So we have him as a possible candidate. The 2 possible but unlikely candidates, we won't go into too much detail here, but Joe Aribo has been part of 2 tournaments. And he didn't start any games, but he was kind of around for a while, but not selected for the last 7 matches, Joe Aribo. And the other one is Papa Daniel. He did start a game, but was not selected for the last 4 matches. So those 2 players possible but unlikely. Okay, that's it for defensive and central midfielders. And let's move on to talk. Well, we have no left and right midfielders. Most teams don't, even though we have a 4-3-3 formation. Generally, central midfielders playing there, or an attacking midfielder possible too for Nigeria. But let's move up to the attacking end of the field, beginning with left attackers. So we kind of have this position here on Soccer Files of left attacking midfielder, and it covers a winger in a 4-3. a winger in a 4-4-2 formation, a attacking midfielder in a 4-2-3-1 formation, or even a forward in a 4-3-3 formation. We consider the outside forwards there as left attackers, and generally it's the same players. So that's why we kind of created this position. Let's look at the candidates. Well, we're going to start with Moses Simon as a versatile attacker. We're going to put him in the versatile attacker position here. And oops, I didn't create the graphic for that, so I'm going to do that because we do find him kind of all over in various positions, even as a forward there. So let's deal with him first, and we won't summarize the position. He'll come up in the positions below, but we have Moses Simon as a definite candidate, and he's been with Nigeria since 2015. He now has 88 caps and 10 goals, more of a goal creator than a scorer there, and he is 30 years old and plays for Paris FC. That is not Paris Saint-Germain, but another club in Paris. Since 2025, a bit of a move down there from Nantes in France, where he was for 5 years before there. And his first tournament, well, it should have been the World Cup in 2018, but he was injured during training, so ultimately not selected for that. The 2019 African Cup and every tournament since 2021 and 2023, we saw. Did we see he was a starter in the 2023 African Cup? I guess we'll see when we summarize some of the positions coming up. Anyway, over the period, Moses Simon started 11 of their 19 games. He was subbed in for 5 besides and injured for 2. So just one match that he wasn't selected for. So Moses Simon, a definite candidate, we think, to make the squad. Well, one of the positions he's going to pop up in is the left attacker position, but that's not the only place we'll see him. In the left attacking midfield position, we have no definite candidate, but a likely candidate in Ademola Lookman, and then a player, possible but unlikely, Ahmed Musa there, and also Olakuni Olusegun, possible but unlikely. We'll take a look at those players shortly after summarizing the position then of left attacking midfield. And we thought Moses Simon would be the definite starter when it came to the Cup. However, he only started once on the left side here, but he did start elsewhere. It was Ademola Lookman who started 6 times in this position. And going forward after the Cup, it was basically a rotation of Lookman and Simon with Alex Iwobi at first. But all 3 of those players pop up in other positions too. Alex Iwobi was there for the March 2024 games, and then Lookman came in for the second game in June of 2024. He played 4 of the 5 fall 2024 games, and then both of the March 2025 games. So for the first half of the period, Lookman pretty ensconced in the position. However, Moses Simon did play one of those fall 2024 games, and then almost all of the games from June 2025 onwards. So towards the end, he kind of resumed playing on the left attacker as he had before the 2023 African Cup, which was what prompted us to strongly predict that he would be a starter, and we turned out to be wrong. Anyway, Alex Iwobi and Ademola Lookman also play elsewhere on the field, so we're gonna see those names. But let's take a look at. I'm not trying to be clever. It just came out that way. Let's. I need to find another way of saying take a look at. Let us view the biography of Ademola Lookman. He's been with Nigeria since 2022, but has 33 caps and 8 goals, so he's used quite a bit. He's 28 years old, playing for Atalanta in Italy since 2022, and he has played for Leipzig in Germany, and several English clubs he was loaned to or played, Leicester, Fulham, and Everton among those. He was born in England. Ademola Lookman actually played for youth teams, English youth teams. And his first tournament for Nigeria was the 2023 African Cup. He started all 7 games except game 3 there. He was subbed into that game and scored 3 of their 8 goals in the tournament as well. So a good tournament for him. And he started 11 of their 19 games over this period, as well as subbing in for 3. But he wasn't selected for 6 matches, and that includes the last match there. So we had to put him as a likely candidate here, but I'm sure he will be on the squad. So Ademola Lookman, a likely candidate. The first of our possible but unlikely is a veteran. It's Ahmed Musa. He has 111 caps since 2010 with Nigeria and 18 goals, but we won't go into a lot of detail on him other than to say that he's been part of tournaments since the 2013 African Cup. Actually, he was probably going to be on the 2010 World Cup squad, but injury prevented his selection there. He's been part of almost every tournament. It looks like the 2017 African Cup he wasn't, but all the way up until the 2023 African Cup. But for the last few tournaments, he hasn't been a starter. And in fact, he saw no action in the last African Cup. But he did appear afterwards in May of 2025 for a single appearance as a substitute, Ahmed Musa. So I'm kind of treating him like he's seemingly off the squad, and perhaps he is. I'm kind of giving him the farewell biography here. But that appearance in May of 2025 shows that he is still a possible candidate, even if unlikely. The other possible but unlikely is Olakunle Olusegun. And let me see. Yeah, basically didn't start any games, just subbed in for 2 over the period there. And we'll get more information on him if he makes the final squad. So that's our candidates here. Keep in mind, too, that Moses Simon is also a candidate as a left attacker. Let's move over to the right attacking midfield. And we begin, again, no definite candidate here, but a likely candidate in Samuel Chukwueze. And then we've moved Kelechi Iheanacho here. He's nominally a forward, but most of his starts have been over here. And we have Kelechi Iheanacho at the possible level here. And finally, we have Nathan Tella also at the possible level. Let's take a look at the position. We thought going into the previous African Cup that Samuel Chukwueze would be the starter if he was fit, but he had injury concerns prior to that cup, and so we weren't sure just about his fitness. He did start 3, but Moses Simon started the other 4. And after the Cup, it was Kelechi Iheanacho starting the first 3 games in March and June 2024. But Chukwueze started the 2nd June game, as well as the first 2 in the fall of 2024. Iheanacho started the last 2 in the fall of 2024, but he was out of the picture after that. As we've already seen, Chukwueze was in and out, and that continued. Moses Simon replacing him several times. But towards the end, a variety of players appeared in the position. Ademola Lookman once, and even central midfielder Frank Onyeka. Onyeka playing there. Chukwueze, though, did return for the last game in October of 2025. So maybe coming back into the position. And that's one where we'll have to look at the games played between now and the Cup to see if he really is coming back into the position. Anyway, let's take a look at the biography of Samuel Chukwueze. He's been with Nigeria since 2018 with 50 caps and 7 goals. And he is 26 years old, played for AC Milan in Italy, but right now is on loan to Fulham in England since 2025. So he has a very good resume. He's spent several years with Villarreal in Spain, and he's been part of tournaments since the 2019 African Cup. He actually started game one there, but lost his starting position. A bit of a complicated story because he regained it. Anyway, 2021 also a starter. 2023, again, we think he would have been a starter had he not been struggling with injury. We think injury prevented him from starting all games there. Anyway, his problems continue over the period because he only started 8 of their 19 games. He was only injured for one of those, but actually a sub for 5 and on the bench for 2, and then not selected for 3 matches. So we kind of think he's falling out of the starting position at least, but we're a bit surprised by that. So we'll have to see going forward. We saw replacing him, especially in the first half of the period, Kelechi Iheanacho. And he's been with Nigeria since 2015, 59 caps and 15 goals for him. He's 29 years old and currently with Celtic in Scotland since 2025. He was with Sevilla before that, and probably best known for being with Leicester in England from 2017 to 2024. He actually was with Manchester City before that, including their youth club. Iheanacho's first tournament was the 2018 World Cup, but he wasn't selected for the 2019 African Cup there. But he was for the last 2 African Cups, a starter in 2021, but just a substitute in 2023. He started only 5 of their 19 games over the period and was not selected for 8 matches, including the last 5 matches. And normally we move a player down in that case, but we've kept him at the possible level because it's, almost a bit inconceivable that he wouldn't make the squad. Mind you, he didn't in 2019, so perhaps we're thinking too highly of him. Anyway, we'll leave him at the possible level, Kelechi Iheanacho, and then take a look at our other candidate at this level. That is Nathan Tella, and he was born in England. Oh, I'm jumping ahead of myself. He has been with Nigeria since 2023, just 2 caps for the national team, and he's 26 years old. Now it's time to say he was born in England, but is actually playing for Bayer Leverkusen in Germany right now since 2023, and was with Southampton in England before that. Nathan Tella only started 1 of their 19 games over the period, and he was on the bench for 3, but struggled with injury. 2 separate injuries left him out for 4 games, and that includes the last 2 matches. But overall, he wasn't selected for 11 games, so we might even put him down to possible, but unlikely. We'll leave him where he is, though. He is out with an injury concern here. Or he was for the last 2 matches, as we saw, out from mid-September. But he did return to play for his club very recently on November 22nd. So there we have Nathan Tella, a possible candidate, and looks like he'll be in shape for selection there. That's it for right attackers. We move on to the central attacking midfield position. They didn't use this position that much, only in about a third of the games, but we do see the main candidate here playing elsewhere. And the main candidate is Alex Iwobi at the definite level. And actually, Moses Simon is coded as an attacking midfielder. We moved him to a kind of versatile attacker position there. So that means Alex Iwobi is the only one on our list here. But we will talk about the position a bit. They didn't use this position, central attacking midfielder, in the Cup. And in fact, they didn't use it until the second game in June of 2024, where we see Alex Iwobi starting there. as we might expect. He filled it. He filled the position the next time they used it in the fall of 2024. But after that, for the three times they used it, it was Ademola Lookman playing the role. However, we're going to see right away that Alex Iwobi did start most of the games in the period. So he also played as a central midfielder and as a left attacking midfielder during this period. So let's take a look at Alex Iwobi's biography. He has been with Nigeria since 2015 with 90 caps and 10 goals and is 29 years old. And he plays for Fulham in England since 2023 and had played for Everton and Arsenal before that. He was with the Arsenal Youth Club from 8 years of age there. And he moved to England at the age of 4, but he actually was born in Nigeria and is a nephew of the Nigerian international JJ Kocha. Alex Iwobi's first tournament was the 2018 World Cup, and he's been involved in every tournament since. And we saw that he was starting as a central midfielder in 6 of the 7 games in the African Cup in 2023. Over this period, though, kind of moved back into an attacking position, playing more games as an attacker, slightly more than half. 13 games in all he started, 13 of their really 18 games, and he was subbed in for 1 and on the bench for 2. So Alex Iwobi, a definite candidate here. And if they use the position, well, I guess it'll either be him or Lookman. But if Lookman does play, then we can almost be certain Alex Iwobi will be somewhere else on the field. Okay, that's it for midfielders. We move on to forwards then. We have no secondary strikers, so we'll just look at forwards. And just to remind what we said in part 1, that in 83% of the games it is a single forward, and in 17% of the games a dual forward. And if it's a 4-3-3 formation, we consider that a single forward with left and right attacking midfielder. Okay, let's look at the candidates. We have Victor Osimhen as a definite candidate. And as a likely candidate, Tolu Arakoder. And then a possible candidate, Victor Boniface. Actually, several possible candidates here. We have Cyril Dessers too. We have Kelechi Iheanacho, but we moved him to the right attacking midfield. So after him, Terem Moffi and Akor Adams. So 4 players there at the possible level. 2 players at the possible but unlikely level. The first is Umar Sadiq, and the second is Alimi Sekiru. And then 2 players seemingly off the squad, Taiwo Awonyi and Paul Onuachu. So that's quite a few players. Let's talk about the position over the period, because a lot of them do show up, actually. The reason why is because Victor Osimhen didn't start all that much during the period. Anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's talk about the Cup, where Osimhen did start all 7 games as the lone forward in that Cup. And we have to say he is the main man when he's available, but he's often not available, starting just 6 games over the period, 6 of their 18 games. So various players fill in for him. In fact, in the first 4 games after the Cup, it was 5 different players playing as forward in one of those games. It was a 2-man forward line, so 5 different people. And then a 6th name came in for the September 2024 game. That was Victor Boniface, but he did remain for a while. He started 4 of the 5 matches in the fall of 2024. Over the period after that, Osimhen was in and out So his name pops up 6 times. But Dessers got 2 starts in the May and June 2025 friendlies. In the fall of 2025, Osimhen played 3 of the 4 matches there. And Akor Adams got his first start alongside Osimhen in the last game there. But you can tell by that description that there's a lot of room for players getting single starts there. Let's take a look at the candidates and you'll find out who did what. Victor Osimhen then with 46 caps since 2017. So it seems like over the course of his career with Nigeria, he hasn't started as much as one might think. However, he has 31 goals in those 46 caps. So a prolific scorer. He's 27 years old. Currently played for Galatasaray in Turkey since 2025, having moved from Napoli in Italy, where he was for 5 years before that. Also played for clubs in Belgium and Germany. His first tournament was the African Cup in 2019. He was actually on the preliminary squad for the World Cup in 2018. But the African Cup just subbed into 1 game there and wasn't selected for the 2021 Cup. Well, he was selected. He was their top scorer in qualifying, but there was controversy with his club team, Napoli, there. Anyway, that was resolved, and he was a starter in the 2023 African Cup, as we saw, starting all 7 games. And a fabulous tournament for him. He was actually player of the tournament there, and even in qualifying, got 10 of their 2022 goals. So recently, he's one of the hottest players in world soccer, Victor Osimhen. So it is a bit of a surprise that he started only 6 of their 19 games over the period. He was subbed in for 3, but then out with 3 separate injuries or health concerns for 4 games and not called up for 6 matches, perhaps related to those injuries. So nevertheless, we have him as a definite because if he's available, he'll certainly be called up. And it doesn't seem that he won't be available now because he was there for 3 of the 4 games at the end. Okay, the likely candidate is Tolu Arokodare, and he only started 1 of their games here, but he's been called up a lot as a substitute and on the bench. Sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself once again. Arokodare has been with Nigeria since 2025 with 8 caps and no goals, and he is 25 years old, playing for Wolverhampton in England and with Genk in Belgium prior to that. Since 2025, so he's new to Wolverhampton. Okay, for Nigeria, he got his first cap in March of 2025, and now it's time to say that he started 1 of their remaining 5 games and was subbed in for 7 and on the bench for 1 other, so consistently called up and a fairly consistent substitute, but not a starter, Tolu Arokodare. Next, we have the first of our 4 possible candidates, Victor Boniface. He's been with Nigeria since 2023 with 13 caps and 1 goal. A bit low there, actually, both for Arokodare and Boniface, given that they're forwards. He is also 25 years old, Victor Boniface, and plays for Bayer Leverkusen in Germany, but is currently on loan to Werder Bremen in Germany, and injury prevented his selection for the 2023 African Cup. He actually was selected but then replaced and has started 5 of their 19 games over the recent period, but we have to put him down to possible because he wasn't selected for the last 4 matches, Victor Boniface. Also at the possible level is Cyril Dessers. and he's been with Nigeria since 2020, but only 10 caps, 3 goals, so more than the other two. But he's 31 years old, playing for Panathinaikos in Greece since 2025, was with Rangers in Scotland before that. Cyril Dessers was born in Belgium and was on the preliminary squad for the 2023 African Cup, but not selected there. He played the first 2 matches in March of 2024, as we saw, and then was off the team. But he did return after a 14-month absence in May of 2025, and then started 3 of their remaining seven games. So he was, though, injured for the last 2 matches, and he actually does have an injury concern or an injury tag on him. Cyril Dessers is out with a sprain, it says in my source, a sprain since late September, so that's a fairly serious sprain. And his return date is unknown, so hopefully we can update that in part 2. But Cyril Dessers, a possible candidate. Next, we have Tera Moffi, and he's been with Nigeria since 2021 with 19 caps and 4 goals. He's 26 years old, and he's with Nice in France since 2023. He was on the squad for the 2023 African Cup, just subbed into 2 games at the end there. And over the period, Moffi started 2 of their 19 games and subbed in for 1, including the last match. But he was injured for 6 and not selected for 9 matches. So Tera Moffi, just a possible candidate here. And finally, we have Akor, I'm not sure how to say it, Akor Adams, and brand new to Nigeria since 2025, but 2 caps and a goal in one of them for the 25-year-old. He plays for Sevilla in Spain since 2025 and Montpellier in France prior to that. Adams got his first cap in October of 2025, and as we saw, started 1 of the 2 remaining games and subbed in for the other. So there's his 2 caps. And he's a possible candidate too. Possible but unlikely candidate, Umar Sadiq, has been with Nigeria since 2022 with 12 caps and 1 goal, and is 28 years old, plays for Real Sociedad in Spain since 2022. He was actually loaned to Valencia there. Actually has played for a lot of teams, a pretty long resume for him in various countries, but we won't go into too much detail. He was part of the 2021 African Cup squad. He only started a B team game there, and in 2023 he was actually another player selected for the final squad but replaced due to injury. So over the recent period, though, Sadiq has started none of their games. He was just subbed in for 1 and on the bench for 5, but not selected for the last 7 matches. And finally, at the possible but unlikely level, at least, we have Alimi Sekuru. And I'll only say about him, he's new to the squad in 2025, but he wasn't selected for the last 4 matches. He did start 1 game, though. In 2025. Anyway, we'll talk more about him if he is selected. The 2 candidates who seem to be off the squad are Taiwo Awoniyi, and he was a starter in the 2021 African Cup, but injury prevented his consideration for the 2023 African Cup. He last appeared for the team, though, in October of 2024, so seems out of the picture for this Cup. The other one is Paul Onuachu, and he was part of the 2019 African Cup. He started game 1 there, but lost his starting position. Not selected for the 2021 African Cup and a substitute in the recent African Cup. However, he has not been called up since June of 2024, Paul Onuachu, so seemingly off the squad. All right, that brings us to the end of our look at the candidates, and we move on to section 3, Um, and we want to welcome new listeners to Section 3 here, which we're going to release as a short version of Part 1 on Nigeria's players. So in the full version, we introduced a bit about the team and then about the candidates and their likelihood of making the squad. We gave biographical information on the main candidates there. So if you want that information, you can go to the full version. And here, though, we're just doing a kind of a wrap up. And we're not concerning ourselves actually with predicting starters. We're going to do that in Part 2. So here, when we say definite or likely, we're talking about their likelihood of being selected for the final squad. Let's begin with manager Eric Chelle. Well, we think he may be in a bit of doubt because he failed to qualify them for the World Cup, but he remains manager for the time being. We'll see if that's the case when we do Part 2 in December here. Goalkeepers, we have a definite candidate in Stanley Nwabali and a likely candidate in Amos Obasogi, and then two possible candidates in Maduka Okoye and Adebayo Adelaide. And we won't talk about players below that level. You can see it on the YouTube if you're watching that, but we'll just mention the definite, likely, and possible candidates. Moving on to central defence, we have two definite candidates in Calvin Bassey and William Troost-Ekong, and then two likely candidates in Semi Ajayi and Benjamin Frederick, and two possible candidates, Igor Ukbo and Chidozie Awadiam. That is that. And left backs, a definite candidate in Bruno Onyemechi. No likely candidates there, but at the possible level, Zaidu Sanusi and Felix Agu for left backs. For right backs, no definite candidate here, but a likely candidate, Ola Aina, and possible candidate, Bright Osei Samuel. That's it for defense. On to the midfield and defensive midfielders. Definite candidate in Wilfred Ndidi and a possible candidate in Raphael Onyedika. And central midfielders, no definite candidate there, but likely candidate Frank Onyeka and possible candidate Al Hassan Youssef. And that's all we have there, not that many candidates. Moving on upfield to attacking midfielders, we have a versatile attacker in Moses Simon. He's a definite candidate, but could appear anywhere on the attacking end of the field. Over to left attacking midfielders, well, Moses Simon will be here and basically in every other category. But here we looked at Ademola Lookman as a likely candidate. And yeah, he was the only one over here, although we saw Alex Iwobi playing in this position, who we'll get to soon. Right attackers, no definite candidates, but a likely candidate in Samuel Chukwueze, and then possible candidates Kelechi Iheanacho and Nathan Tella. Kelechi Iheanacho is coded as a forward, but we moved him to here. Central attackers also playing in various positions. Alex Iwobi as a definite candidate, and actually Moses Simon also coded as an attacking midfielder. No secondary strikers, so we move on to forwards. A definite candidate in Victor Osimhen, likely candidate in Tolu Arukodere, and four possible candidates here: Victor Boniface, Cyril Dessers, Terem Moffi, and Akor Adams. Okay, the next thing we'll do is we will talk about big names off the squad. So we do have a couple of retiring veterans, let's say. And the first one is goalkeeper Francis Uzuho. He has 34 caps for Nigeria, so not really a veteran, but we won't go into detail because we did this in section 2, but last appeared in March of 2024. Kenneth Omaru is a central defender with 69 caps and last appeared in March of 2024. Actually, those are the only two. I thought we had a few more. But what we do have a lot of is injuries. And we'll kind of go through the positions here. We'll start with central defender Igo Ogbu. He was at the portable level and out with a hamstring injury from mid-September, but appeared for his club very recently on October 22nd. So we'll say he is recovered from injury. Also recovered from injury, defensive midfielder Rafael Onyedika. He was out with a hamstring injury but returned to play in early November, but had been out for the October games there. So he is a possible candidate. Expected back is Nathan Teller. He's a right winger or right attacking midfielder, out with a bruised knee from mid-September 2025, but he is expected to return in late November here. And then a close call would, sorry, we're not going by position, we're going by where I put them in the file anyway. Ola Aina, a hamstring injury from mid-September, and his return is expected on January 1st. The tournament begins about 10 days before that, so it's going to be a close call. Maybe in part two, we'll be able to give more specific information. And then we have three players who are at the unknown level. So one is central defender Benjamin Frederick. Like Ola Aina, he's a likely candidate, but he's been out, Benjamin Frederick, with an unknown injury since mid-November. And an unknown return date. So very recent injury, Benjamin Frederick. Next is left back Felix Agu, out with an ankle injury from mid-October. And an unknown return date for him. And finally, we have forward Cyril Dessers, out with a sprain since late September and a return date unknown. So looks like a fairly serious sprain there. Closing thoughts. Well, we don't have too much time here, but I'll just say that Nigeria has a very stable squad, not a big squad, not nearly as big as one might expect. So tends to be the same players starting, which is usually a good sign. Anyway, I'm going to move on because our time is short here. And in part two, then, we're going to do part two when the final squads are released. We'll tell you who's on the preliminary squad and who made the final cut. We'll highlight any notable non-selections and any surprise inclusions, and then we'll tell you about any new players. We have a lot of business to do updating injuries, so any changes there we can let you know about. And finally, part of our part two is the Spotlight Review, which is our prediction of starters for fun. So stay tuned for that. That probably will come out in mid-December, and we'll see you then. We would like to thank Pixabay and Cold Fingers for the wonderful music used in this mediacast. The title of the piece is Eid Mubarak.